2 European countries will see their local population halved by 2100 if things continue as they are. Some will see their local population increasingly replaced by immigrants. This is the scenario hypothesized by EUROSTAT for 2100. Of course, these are forecasts, and so they may well change. However, they are useful for seeing what Europe could be like in the future if things continue this way. In this video, we will see which are the 10 European countries that will undergo the greatest reduction in local population by 2100. As these are Eurostat forecasts, only countries in the European Union and 3 of the 4 European Free Trade Association countries are considered. In the final bonus, we will also take a look at the United Kingdom. Welcome to this new video from Amazing Europe. Number 10, Poland. Poland will undergo a significant aging of its local population. If in 2022 the average age of Poles was 42 years old, by 2100 it will be 50.4 years old. What is most worrying is that there will be fewer and fewer young people to pay the pensions of the elderly, whose number will continue to grow. Today, for every 100 working-age individuals in Poland, there are about 29 elderly people. By 2100, if things continue this way, there will be 60. Surely the 2 factors that most contribute to this drama are the low birth rate and the high death rate. In Poland there are 8.7 babies born per 1,000 inhabitants, while there are 12.9 deaths per 1,000 inhabitants. These and other factors will lead to a 35.5% decrease in the Polish population by 2100. Part of the local population will be replaced by immigrants. Taking into account net migration, it is estimated that in 2100, 29.5 million people will live in Poland, about 22% less than there are now. Number 9, Malta. Malta is truly a special case. It is the country on this list that will have the oldest population in 2100. It is estimated that the average age of the population will be 53.3 years old. In 2100, for every 100 working-age people, there will be 68 elderly people. This is the highest figure among these 10 countries. Yet today Malta has the lowest figure. The population is truly destined to age. Yet it is the only country on this list to still have more births than deaths, even if by a little. But according to Eurostat, the situation is about to change, and it will change quickly. It is predicted that by 2100, the local population will decrease by 37.6%. However, if immigrants are taken into account, the situation will change drastically. In fact, it is predicted that there will be so many migrants that, even if the native Maltese people will decrease, the resident population on the island in 2100 will increase by about 46% compared to the current population. If you want to know in which nations immigrants will replace the locals the most, subscribe to the channel, because we are preparing a video on this topic. Number 8, Spain. In Spain, people have children later in life, and therefore have fewer of them. The average age at which a first child is born is 31.6 years, compared to the European Union average of 29.7 years. Only 7.1 children per 1,000 inhabitants are born here, one of the lowest figures in the Eurozone. The low birth rate is not enough to offset the deaths, as there are 10.1 deaths per 1,000 inhabitants. The resident population of Spain has increased in recent years. This is an increase of 3% from 2010 to 2022. However, this should not be taken as an illusion, as it is only due to immigration. Currently, 11.4% of the resident population of Spain is made up of immigrants, and Eurostat has predicted that this figure will continue to rise. If things continue as they are, the Spanish population will decrease by 39.2% by 2100. However, there will be so many immigrants that the resident population will be lower than the current population by only 4.9 percentage points. It is important to remember that these are just forecasts, and that things can change drastically between now and 2100. However, these forecasts are useful for giving us an idea not so much of the future, but of the direction that certain countries are taking today. Number 7, Portugal. It is not surprising to see Portugal on this list, given the ever-increasing number of Portuguese people emigrating abroad in search of work. There are more than 2 million Portuguese emigrants around the world today. If we also consider the descendants of Portuguese emigrants in the past, the figure is 5 million. This is more than 40% of the Portuguese people residing in Portugal. It does not seem that this flow of emigrants will decrease in the coming years. If we add to this the fact that, even in this country, there are more deaths than births, it is understandable why EUROSTAT has predicted a 39.26% decrease in the local population by 2100. The situation seems really worrying also for another aspect. Since more and more young Portuguese people are emigrating abroad, there are fewer and fewer young people left in Portugal who can pay the pensions of the elderly. For every 100 working-age people, there are now 37 elderly people. By 2100, if things continue this way, there will be 59. Number 6. Latvia. This is one of the so-called Baltic tigers. Together with Estonia and Lithuania, Latvia experienced an economic boom from 2000 to 2007. However, this did not stop the strong emigration. Young people are leaving this country in search of better opportunities abroad. From 2010 to 2022, the resident population decreased by 20.7%. EUROSTAT data states that if things continue this way, there will be a further 40% decrease in the native population by 2100. And immigration will not be enough to counteract this decline. Today, 13.1% of the resident population of Latvia is made up of immigrants. But it seems that this small nation will not attract immigration in the future. If things continue this way, immigrants will be attracted to other nations. EUROSTAT states that, even if immigrants are taken into account, Latvia is one of the nations that is most destined to empty over time. One of the main causes is that, while the birth rate is 8.5 babies born per 1,000 inhabitants, the death rate is a staggering 14.7 deaths per 1,000 inhabitants. Number 5. Greece. Surely many of you will not be surprised to see Greece in this ranking. Greece has lost 10.2% of its population between 2010 and 2022, but things seem like they will get much worse in the future. If things continue this way, there will be 40.3% fewer Greeks in Greece by 2100. Surely this will also be due to emigration. According to the General Secretariat of Hellenes Abroad, today there are more than 5 million people of Greek origin living outside Greek borders, scattered around 140 countries across the globe. In addition, Greeks have few children. There are 7.5 births per 1,000 inhabitants, compared to 12 deaths per 1,000 inhabitants. Greek women also become mothers late. The great precariousness certainly does not help to hope for the future, and this leads Greek women to have their first child at the age of 31. Number 4. Croatia. Among the nations traumatized by the Balkan conflict, Croatia emerges as a beacon of hope. In fact, it has a GDP per capita of around $17,000, well above the $10,000 of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Yet, this apparent prosperity has not been able to stop the demographic hemorrhage that has hit the country in recent years. Some 770,000 people, almost 17% of the population, have left their homeland between 2010 and 2022. Unlike other nations, Croatia is not only seeing its rural areas empty out, but also its urban centers, making this phenomenon particularly alarming and counter to the trend of its neighbors. Among the main causes of this silent diaspora is the lack of adequate housing, especially at prices affordable for younger generations. This tragedy is compounded by the fact that there are many more deaths than births in Croatia. If things continue this way, Croatia will undergo a 42.9% decrease in its local population by 2100. Number 3. Bulgaria. Bulgaria is the European Union nation where women have their first child the earliest, at an average age of 26.6 years. The number of children per woman is also not bad, at least compared to the European average. If in the European Union each woman has 1.45 children, in Bulgaria the average rises to 1.65. This is the third highest figure in the European Union. And yet, if things continue this way, they are destined to lose 43% of their local population. The causes are diverse, but the two main ones are emigration and the high death rate. In Bulgaria, 14.3 people die per 1,000 inhabitants, and this is one of the highest figures in Europe. 82% of Bulgarians die from diseases of the circulatory system and from tumors, and for years Bulgarian doctors have declared that smoking and alcohol are the leading causes of death in this country. Number 2. Italy. Italy has been experiencing a serious demographic decline for some time. This decline is being compensated for by immigrants. From 2010 to 2022, Italy saw a 2.3% decrease in its resident population. This percentage also includes foreigners. Even taking into account the foreigners who will move to Italy, Italy is destined to lose a further 15% of its population by 2100. But if we only consider the local population, excluding immigrants, there will be 46.8% fewer Italians in 2100. If things continue this way, the Italian population will be almost halved in about 75 years. Of course, we remember that these are just forecasts. They cannot tell us for sure what the future will be like, but they outline a possible scenario if things do not change. As we have already explained in the dedicated video, Italian mothers are the oldest in Europe. It is also the oldest population in Europe, with an average age of around 48 years. Already today, for every 100 people of working age, there are 37.5 pensioners. This is a serious problem for the government, which is having increasing difficulty paying pensions. Before we reveal number 1 and the final bonus on the UK, if you found this video interesting, we kindly ask you to like it, subscribe to the channel and activate all notifications by clicking on the bell. This doesn't cost you anything, but it would help us a lot to spread our project. Thank you very much. Number 1, Lithuania. This is the second Baltic tiger on this list. Although it had a strong economic recovery in the 2000s, this is not enough to stop the emigration of Lithuanians abroad. This emigration is already underway, with Lithuania losing 17.5% of its population between 2010 and 2022. Immigration to the country is very low and is not enough to counteract this depopulation. Another thing that worsens the situation is the high death rate. There are 15.2 deaths per 1,000 inhabitants. Experts say that this is mainly due to 3 causes: alcohol, obesity, and suicides. 1 in 3 men has serious alcohol problems, which causes traffic accidents and cardiovascular problems. Cardiovascular problems are also caused by the high rate of overweight people. 60% of Lithuanian men are overweight, and of these, 17% are obese. Suicides are a real problem in Lithuania. From its peak in 1995, the suicide rate in Lithuania has steadily decreased, but it is still the highest in the European Union. In fact, according to OECD data, there are 18.5 suicides per 100,000 inhabitants. All this, and much more, will lead to the halving of the Lithuanian population by 2100. In fact, EUROSTAT has predicted a 49.4% decrease in the local population of this nation. What will happen in the UK instead? We do not have EUROSTAT forecasts for 2100, but we do have those from the UK Office for National Statistics for 2045. The UK's resident population increased by 7.6% between 2010 and 2022. These figures include both the local population and immigrants. The UK is one of the few European countries where there are still more births than deaths. In 2023, there were 10.8 births compared to 9.1 deaths per 1,000 inhabitants. However, according to the National Statistics Office, things will change from 2029 onwards. This will lead to a slow decline in the local population, which will decrease by 1.8% in 2045. However, immigration is expected to be so high that the UK's resident population will increase by 7.3% on average. Some statistics claim that the population will increase by up to 11.3%, again thanks to immigrants. According to all statistics, the European local population is destined to be increasingly replaced by immigrants. If you are interested in this topic, we recommend that you subscribe to the channel, because we are preparing a video on the European countries whose population will be most replaced by immigrants by 2100. But we have already prepared another video on the European countries with the most immigrants today, and another on the nations that have depopulated most quickly in recent years. We recommend that you take a look, to get a more complete picture of the situation. Well, that's all for this video. See you next time.